Hey everyone, welcome back to On Point. This episode, I sit down with Dirk Durham, aka The Bugler, who has a new project going along with Jason Phelps, Dan Staton, and John Gabriel called the Elk Collective. We dive into what that is. We talk a little bit about Dirk's strategies and setups for elk, and it's just a great conversation. Dirk is such an awesome guy, great personality, good sense of humor, and just always happy to listen to him talk about elk hunting. And his new project that they have is going to change the game for online education courses regarding elk. And a lot of, some of the stuff that's out right now is in PDF form that we talk about. This is going to change the game with a kind of an interactive and lots of videos and just a lot of tutorials that you can visually watch and learn from. So I'm really excited about this because that's how I learn, is through watching, and very excited to release this to you guys, to show you guys about something that can change the game if you're wanting to get better or learn more about elk hunting. So outside of that, if you haven't yet, be sure to go to www.onpointpodcast.com and give me your email. Eventually, I will do something with it. Hopefully, it'll be like a newsletter that I'm about a year behind on. But I promise you, once I figure out actually how to do it, I'll be sending you emails and hopefully discount codes and stuff to the products and gear that I approve of, that I use, that I believe in. And it's not going to be a bunch of just spam or anything like that. It'll help you keep up to date with what I have going on as far as content, and hopefully save you money with the products that I've tested, and they, if they pass the muster, you'll see them on the emails. So outside of that, guys, appreciate you for listening, and I will see you at the end of the episode. Well, hey, I appreciate you meeting me on short notice here, Dirk. But once I started seeing some stuff about the Elk Collective, I wanted to get you on here and talk about what you guys have going on, and it sounds pretty cool. So you want to go ahead and give yourself, I don't know if you need to do a quick intro. You're welcome to if you want, but we'll just dive into this thing.
Hey guys, my name is Dirk Durham. I'm a sales and marketing guy for Phelps Game Calls. That's my daytime job. I own and operate my side hustle business, the Bugler brand. So I do some hats, t-shirts and stuff there. Just got into video production on YouTube here a couple years ago on there. And so we're starting this new elk hunting educational piece called the Elk Collective. And teaming up with Jason Phelps, Dan Staton, John Gabriel to make this happen. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's going to be digital elk hunting education, very focused on video, audio, not a bunch of PDFs to read because nobody got time for that, right?
Well, it seems like it's just a very, well, I guess, modern way to learn how to elk hunt and stuff, because a lot of this stuff has been like a college course, and for me, I just don't enjoy learning through text and just through reading on a computer. I have to do that for my licensing, for my job and stuff like that. So to be able to learn through a video and be like, hey, I'm Dirk and this is how you call on a bull or something like that. That's kind of what I pictured it as being. But so you guys are going to have YouTube videos and like modules and stuff like that, or how's this going to work?
So there'll be chapters dedicated to each aspect of the hunt, whether it's scouting, fitness, preparing your weapon. Let's say, we're not going into rifle hunting right away. We're staying in our lane. We're going to go with what we know. So it's going to be very archery heavy at this time. But the great thing about the Elk Collective is it's going to be it's always going to be evolving, if you will. So the content you see this year is going to be there next year, but there'll be a whole new batch of content from our previous fall's hunts. So this fall, we're all videoing our hunts. We're going to capture everything and then break it down and have all these different little nuggets of information on where the hunt went right, where the hunt went wrong, and how that kind of applies to new hunters. Or, even if you're a seasoned vet, I think you can learn a lot. I've been doing this for 30 years, and it seems like every year I learn more and more, whether it be the elk or, I'm always, all ears. I can learn from just about anybody. And so if I can take a little bit of their knowledge and put it in my quiver, I'm going to have a lot more ammunition come fall. But yeah, it'll be broken down into categories. Basically everything you need to know about how to hunt elk, where to begin, how to get a tag, with our launch being in July, we're going to launch July 1st. It didn't really make a lot of sense to focus a lot right now on draw odds and how to apply an application process, but more like, hey, we've got less than 3 months now to get an elk tag and get to the woods. How am I going to get it? How am I going to get an elk tag? Then, where do you want to hunt? What kind of hunt are you looking for? Do you want to backpack hunt? Do you want to hunt from a truck camp? How do you want to do it? So we're going to have all that information at your fingertips to learn. And then, even fitness and stuff, Dan Staten, he's like the fitness guru. But not to take away, he's a fantastic elk hunter. That guy knows some stuff. He does it a lot different than me. Jason Phelps, I've hunted with him. He does some similar stuff than me, or similar stuff to what I do, but different. And I think, and same with John, he's going to try to hunt elk this fall, like whitetails and like mule deer in Utah. He's one of those Utah guys now. So he's completely going an opposite direction on how you would typically hunt elk. So, and that's just our core group, but we're also going to bring in some names that a lot of people are going to be familiar with. Some people that are pretty respected in the elk hunting community to know their stuff. And we want their ways to be heard too. Because in the name, the collective, it's more of, a collective, all these ideas rather than one man's way of doing it. So, and I think everybody learns a little bit different, and maybe somebody wants to go all in Team Dirk, but probably not. They're probably going to learn a whole bunch of other stuff from a lot of other people on there and just become a better elk hunter.
Well, I think you covered it really well there, because, I always call it, what do you do when the elk don't follow the playbook? And it's like, okay,
yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I did that. I got inside 80 yards. Okay, I got inside his house, and then I bugled, and then he ran off. I'm like, okay, well, it's not guaranteed if you follow, the rabbit ears playbook or anything. And that's what I love about having different styles, is that, you got the bros, you have to find the right bull. We cover lots of ground. We bugle, and then we just find the right bull that wants to play with us. And then you have other guys that they don't pass a bull, that, if they think there's a bull in that drainage, they'll hunt that drainage despite whether he's talking or not. Or guys that hunt blinds, wallows, whatever it may be. So you guys are probably, I'm guessing you guys are probably going to have the bro guys on there. How do they contrast to the way that you hunt?
Very similar, actually, to how I hunt, because I cover lots and lots of ground. I'm always just trying to find a bull that'll bugle. I don't waste a lot of time cold calling, which when I say waste a lot of time, I'm probably a fool not to slow down and spend a little bit more time cold calling, because if I can't hear bulls bugling, I'm moving on. I'm finding a new spot. I may go a completely different direction, different drainage. And it's not too much different than how born and raised like to hunt too. So, but it's crazy. I always find that we all have this idea of, well, I'll always do this, or elk always do this, and this is how it's going to play out. But that's what elk always do until they don't. Right. 60% of the time it works every time. Right. Or probably like 20% of the time it works every time.
Yeah.
So we going to these elk shape camps with Dan, we really started kind of analyzing what we're telling people and what the kind of questions they're asking. And a lot of these guys are new to hunting completely. They've never even had a call in their mouth. Some have been hunting for years, but just have never tasted success. And there's all these little small nuances out of our daily hunting routine that create success that we just take for granted a lot of times. But until you sit down and start talking with these folks that have never thought of that or heard about it, it's not until then do you kind of realize like, well, I guess, a lot of there's these little things that we take for granted. A lot of people don't know. So we kind of wanted to bring all of that to the table, so it, into a platform that would be very user friendly. And like I said, like PDFs and stuff, nobody got time for that. Man, it's hard enough to read. People say, oh, hey, do you read books? And man, I'm probably the worst guy to ask if I read books. I just don't have the time or the focus to read them. But if I could listen to a book, I'd probably listen to 500 books, which I could, but I just don't. But that's how a lot of people get their information. I think a lot of people kind of cheat the system when they're at work, when they should be working, 100% dedicated at their job, but they're listening to podcasts or they're watching YouTube videos, just the audio segment of it.
Oh yeah.
So we thought, and with this digital age, look how everything's going. You say, hey, Alexa, turn on the TV or whatever. People want information right at their fingertips and to be absorbed quickly. And I think visual and audio, that's the best way.
Well, Bro had a few YouTube videos where they went around here locally, and it was funny because I'm like, oh, I know where that's at. Oh, I know where that's at. But they went around locally, and they're like, this is what we look for. This is what we do. This is how we do this. And they literally just took a camera with the crew, and they basically just showed you exactly how they go out and get it done. And to be able to have something that's dedicated to that would be, man, I wish I would have had that back when I started. I failed for like 6 or 7 years. Didn't fill a tag, didn't release an arrow for probably 6 years, elk hunting, and just got my butt kicked for years and years and years, man. And I'm not the only one. And then now it's like, the last few years I should have filled my tags. The last 3 years I think I have, or 2 years I have. But and now that we've gotten the success, and since we've been, I think the tables have turned. When Grady came out with the Jason Phelps and Corey Jacobson episodes, the old Elk Nuggets podcast that he had, or the man, those were great. And then we were listening to those on the way over one year, and that was listening to that one episode got us a shot, and we shot a bull because of that podcast. I'm like, here's what we need to do, and I'd never been in that situation before, but having the power of that information to know, hey, here's what we need to do, even though I had no idea personally, we were able to go out and find success because we applied what we learned. And so I know personally that what you guys are going to be doing is going to be really valuable for guys because, like I said, the video part, I'm like you, man. I don't read books. I don't do all that crap. I listen to podcasts. I watch YouTube videos because that's how I learn best. And
oh, me too.
Yeah, just being able to have that. There's nothing else out there like that, at least that I know of. I mean, you guys are the first ones breaking that barrier.
Yeah. And for instance, so I'm not sure if you caught my video series last fall from, it's called Mouth Tab Mattis, and I had a 10-day hunt on YouTube. And so I've got all these hours and hours of video and lots of good hunting. And as I'm watching this stuff and I'm talking to these guys at these elk shape camps, I got this idea in my head that, it would be cool to be able to kind of do a director's cut, if you will, where you play you roll film and then you just kind of talk about it, kind of like chalk talk with coaches on Sunday morning from football or whatever.
That would be sick.
Hey, this is what I'm doing right now. This is what I'm doing. This is what I just did wrong. You analyze every little piece of it. And man, we've kind of done some of that like live at our elk shape camps, and man, people just love it. They're like, holy cow. You can tell them and they can read it 100 times, but until they see it like unfolding and you're kind of telling them what you did and why you did it, then it just like clicks in their head. They're like, oh, I get it now. Yeah. I see what you mean. So I think those kind of things are going to be really good. So, and Jason's going to dissect a couple of his hunts in there. I think Dan's going to dissect some stuff. So there's all sorts of, I think we have 70 video components uploaded right now.
I mean, to kind of like go off of what you're saying there, I've always thought it would be cool to have a interactive learning experience or something where we just talked about how we don't read books, but there's books out there where you can like choose. If you want to do this, go to page 86, and if you want to do this, go to page 46. Have you done those, like the Storytell books kind of thing?
Yeah. When I was a kid, choose your own adventure. Right?
Yes.
We had this conversation actually when we were spitballing ideas for this this deal, and that was one of them. I said, we need to have it be to where people can choose your adventure. Some people wanted, they love that romance of backpacking 10 miles deep into the wilderness. Other people, it's just like, physically demandingly, they can't do that, which is okay. There's a lot of really great elk hunts. You don't have to be a freak in nature physically to go chase elk successfully. So I think we'll have a little bit of everything for everybody in that regard.
Well, I know personally, and this is what made me think of that, is back when I had an Insta story, and he's still on Instagram if you wanted to go check it out. But I shot a nice Rosie last year, and I spot and stalked him, not the way I wanted to kill him, but it's the way I had to. And
Sure.
So I was creeping in this unit, and then I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do an Instagram live kind of thing, and then of me shooting this bull. But I did it real time, but I did it the day after. So I recorded the whole thing, and then I uploaded the story chronologically correctly the next day. And so people thought it was live. I didn't say anything. So people thought it was live. And I just was like, I wonder what's going to happen here. And that video got a ton of comments and stuff. And people, I'm like, I'm just, I'm literally narrating, and then I'm filming it, and I'm showing them through the binos, the bull, and everybody's like, bugle, do this, do that. And everybody's like, everybody had their own thing. And I'm like, well, I'm sure as hell not bugling at this bull. I'm completely out in the open. He's bedded down, and it was just really interesting if there's some point we could ever get to the point where it's like you're almost watching it live, and then you're armchair quarterbacking it, and you could learn from their successes or failures that way. I mean, I know that would take a very dedicated teacher, but just from that experience, I'm like, man, the engagement from that alone, and then being able to kind of like choose your adventure. People were like wanting me to do all sorts of things that I didn't agree with. But it was just really interesting that everybody had their own idea of exactly what to do when that bull was right there. And so to kind of just, I think it would be fantastic if you guys could do some sort of live or semi-live hunt, which you guys kind of already do with the tours and stuff. It's a few months after the fact, but
yeah, it'd be kind of cool if a lot of the places we go, of course, you don't have cell service, but man, if a guy could hunt somewhere where he had cell service, you could really do some cool stuff in that same regard, that live hunt or semi-live hunt.
Yeah, might have to carry a booster in your pocket or something.
Yeah, great big one.
Yeah, but I want to go over. So you guys, so you have John who moved. He's no longer in Washington, I believe. You've got Phelps. You've got Phelps who's still in Washington.
In the Salt Lake City area.
And so you guys are, because the way that we hunt Rosies versus Rockies, there's a few stark differences for me personally. Are you guys going to have different classes or lessons for different areas versus pressured elk, non-pressured elk, Rocky versus Rosie? Because I know over here, I feel like I can be way more aggressive when I finally get him to hold his own. I mean, I feel the bulls that I've killed anyways, I mean, shoot, you can almost walk right up to them if it's brushy enough. They're just going to hold their own. But with the Rockies, I feel like we can get away with a lot more calling and bugling. And I'm kind of asking a question of that at the same time because you're way more experienced at that than I am. But it feels like they call way easier over in the Rockies, and maybe that's because there's not as much foliage and stuff. But I know that when you do get a bull over here on the coast, it feels like our success rate's higher once you get them going.
Yeah, we're going to have actually Trent and Cody are going to help us out a little bit with the Elk Collective. They're going to give us some other golden nuggets of the Rosies and more. But I've never hunted Roosevelt, but from everything everybody tells me, a lot of these elk that I've hunted almost are like a hybrid. Some of the times how they act. they can sometimes be pretty tight-lipped, but man, if you can get them going, they will come right in, and I can get away with some pretty aggressive tactics, like you say, walking right up to them. That's my MO for like a lot of the country I hunt in Idaho, because it's just so darn brushy and thick timber that they hear you popping brush, they think you're another elk, and if you've got them ripping already and they're kind of hung up, that's kind of my end game is if they're hung up, then I just go right to them and see if I can get them to show themselves right at the last second. Sometimes it blows up in my face and they run away, but it's kind of that fine line of trying to figure out, do I go too fast? Do I go, it's like that balancing act, but
right.
I usually kind of err on the side of being a little more aggressive. Because I've had so many times in my younger days where I played it really safe. It's like, no, I'm not going to do anything wrong, and I'm going to play this super safe. And pretty soon the bull will lose interest and just kind of move off. And there you are. It's like, well, he left. I should have probably just did what I thought I should do anyway. And he's either going to lose interest, you're either going to scare him off, or you're going to kill him. So
right.
Two of those are the same thing, right? So you might as well try to go the one that you're going to probably kill him with by being aggressive. So,
well, I know personally, and I'm so happy to hear you say lean on the side of aggressive, because the more aggressive, and I tell my buddy this all the time that I hunt with, it's like, man, the more elk, when we kill more elk is when we're being aggressive. Period. I mean,
right.
And I've lost more opportunities at elk and more shot opportunities because I wasn't aggressive enough. And I think after talking to a lot of people and seeing what a lot of people do, most people, I would say, when they get to that red zone, and I don't know what you'd call the red zone, I'd say 100 yards in or something. That's where 80% of your failures happen, probably. And it's because I think that people aren't aggressive enough. And I would like to hear you speak on what your experience is with that. And then also a follow-up question to that would be, what is your success rate for when you do get inside the red zone of 100 yards on average?
I don't know what percentage wise the success rate, but here's kind of my thoughts with every time I hear an elk bugle. If I can get that thing to bugle 3 times at me, and if I can figure out exactly where he is, I'm either going to call him in and see him, or maybe even shoot him, or probably scare him real bad. Right.
Right.
But, it's just that having that confidence, I guess, to, know how to play that game. But especially once you get in that red zone, if they're really worked up, I will say that, I mean, I always have this ultra confidence about it, but then you stand back and start analyzing things. So let's say you only call in one of 10 bulls that you even hear, right? So I've heard 10 bulls before I've even got one called in to that, to where I can see him.
What do you define as called in?
To where I can see him, where I almost got a shot.
Okay.
Yeah, where he's came in, hung up, maybe saw me or I saw him,
okay.
Just bugling back and forth across the canyon, and he walks my way 100 yards. That's not falling. But
I was just wondering, because
we
some
got to
guys
be
are
in
like,
that red zone.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, we got to be in the red zone with some tension on the string.
Okay.
For that to be a real call in.
Well, I got some guys are like, we called in 6 bulls. I'm like, dude, I was bugling at you and you weren't calling me in. Like, I was a quarter mile away. But whatever you want to tell
those are probably
buddies.
the ones that have been chatting with babes online all day too. I almost got a girlfriend today.
Oh man. But I just curious hearing somebody like you, what define what you is a call in. Because I've always struggled. I'm like, well, what do you classify as a call-in? Like me, it would probably be, that 100 yards, and maybe I called him in from 400 or 500, or like you said, you caught him sneaking in. And I'm sure there's a lot of bulls we don't even know that we call in that are just sneakers, and then they just sneak out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But so, do you have any good tags this year in other states, or anything that you guys are working on this year for a video project?
I do. So Phelps and I and John, we all are going to New Mexico. So
really,
that should be pretty awesome. It's a good tag. and we're pretty pumped up. John did some filming down there last year. Phelps and John have been there before. Phelps had a muzzleloader tag for that same unit, so they've been there before, kind of know where to go, and we got a couple contacts that can kind of give us some intel too. So that should be a super fun hunt.
Who's got the tag there?
All three of us. We all got one.
Archery?
Yep. Yeah. We got all three of us got landowner or unit wide landowner tags.
Oh, sweet.
So
wow.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, so I love John. John's a freaking stud. That guy's awesome. And I think he might even be smaller than me, but he straight up shreds. I mean,
that poor guy. We give him such a hard time for being short, but man, he's the best sport. And just, he's one of those guys that he's got your back no matter what. Like, you could ask him to do anything and he'd just drop it and do it, come help or whatever. And he's so darn talented too on his, his business side, whether it's website building or graphic art or whatever. He's an awesome dude.
Yeah. John actually did all my logos and everything. I mean, anything that you see on point or anything like that, John did everything. And I started with, he's like, well, what do you want to name? I'm like, I don't know. I have a list of like 50 things on a piece of paper. I'll send it over to you. And then you tell me which ones you think sound good. And I didn't give him much to work with, man. But he did a good job. But so you got you, Phelps, Joe, or John, and Dan. So is this this is going to be something outside of the Angry Mountain Productions, or is this going to be in cahoots with that? Is all this kind of coming together through a spider web somehow, or what's this?
It does spider web out because we got our Phelps, a core group of guys, from the Angry Mountain Productions side. But we got other people involved too. People would probably recognize their names. We're not quite ready to let the cat out of the bag 100% yet, but but yeah, it's going to be a pretty cool collaboration here.
Well, I'm curious because, I don't know. I've never taken the Elk 101 or anything like that, but I'm curious to see if you guys are going to have anything for as far as gear setups, arrow setups, and bow setups. Yeah.
So we dive deep into a lot of bow setup. So, and that's one of the things that Dan brings to the table from his elk-shaped camp. Every camp he's had an expert who, like an archery shop owner expert, that's a guru at tuning bows, and then working on form. There's a guy, I'll say his name, Joel Turner. Joel Turner.
Has shot
IQ. Yeah, shot IQ. Yeah, so he's been part of the elk-shaped camps, a few of those, and that guy is a genius and has all sorts of great information for guys who are just struggling with target panic or or anything in just that shot execution realm.
Yeah.
And then bow tuning, like I said, from the guys at the shops, shooting under duress. There's a ton of just really great stuff in there. Some of the videos are short, 5-10 minute videos, in the whole grand scheme of things. Some are over an hour. So there's a ton of information.
I'd love to hear what you personally use for an arrow setup and stuff like that, because I that's one of the number one questions I get all the time is, will my arrow setup kill an elk? And it's like, man, well, yeah, I mean, most of them will. I mean, most of the ones I get sent to me will. I very rarely get anything that I actually make a suggestion on. It's either yay or nay. But what is your arrow setup of choice right now with broadhead selection and everything?
So last year I shot heavy arrows. First year I'd shot those. I think I came in at 535 grains. That's heavy to me.
That's what I shot last year, 535.
Yeah, some guys will shoot, 600 or whatever, or more, and that's like super heavy. But what I didn't, and I love the penetration. I mean, I shot my bull with pulling 55 pounds and passed right through, completely through. Great penetration, but that was with my mouth tab bow. But even when I had it before I got injured, I had it cranked up to 70, and man, the darn pin gap was so wide that if you start misjudging your yards to 5 to 8 yards, if you don't have time to range or something, you're going to miss by, the exact mark by 6 to 8 inches or better. So that I wasn't a real fan of that. In the past, probably my favorite arrow setup has been, it's about 435 grains. I want to get it bumped up a little bit heavier, probably like about around 450, which should be pretty doable. But with that arrow weight, I don't have any penetration problems unless, you hit them in the shoulder blade. Of course, it's not going to penetrate, but I don't think a 535 grain arrow is going to penetrate either. You hit them in the knuckle of the shoulder blade there. But at that 435, man, my pin gap is pretty good. So if I misjudge by 5 yards, I'm still in. I'm only about a 4-inch drop or 4 inches high. And there's just a little more room for error, and let's face it, out of the last 10 bulls I've shot, I don't know if I ranged half of them.
Really?
Was able to range half of them, Every time I set up, when I got bulls coming in, I range. But then it seems like something happens, got to move up, and then shoot, there he is. And then you're pulling back and just like, all right, he's 28 or he's 18, you're, I feel like I've had way more, even in today's day and age of rangefinders, I'm shooting bulls without ranging them. So, not because I'm stubborn, it's because just the opportunity, how it arose.
Do you think that's because you're getting him in close? We're not talking 60, 70 yards, but what's your average shot here? Because you could get away with using your 20 on a 30.
Yeah, 30 yards and under.
Yeah, see, that makes really good sense. You wouldn't have to range anything. Yeah.
Right.
Me, if I had a bull at 30, I'd probably shoot it for 70 if I didn't range it. My depth perception sucks, man.
Right.
But so your average shot's less than 30, though.
And that's how I sight my top pin, too, is my top pin's 30 yards, right, and under, 30 and under. So even at 20 yards, I'm a little high. I'm 4 inches high. At 35 yards, I'm 4 inches low. So one pin can cover from 0 to 35. That's some pretty good confidence. You come up the hill, out of breath, shaky, exhausted. You can still make that shot. You have to think about it too hard. You get in that pickle where you don't have time to range. But yeah, if you're not shooting 40 plus, you're going to have to range those shots a lot more. But I think you kind of talked about where people kind of go wrong and where their setups and stuff go wrong, and talking to these guys at Elk Shape Camp or talking to guys at trade shows, it's the same story. The faces are different, but the story is, man, I can get bulls to bugle good, and they come in pretty good to a point. Then they hang up, and at that point, man, I tried everything, but he just didn't move. And a lot of it is in setup. So if you're setting up to where you're getting a 40, 50, 60, 70 yard shot, I think you might be setting up in the wrong spot. You want to set up to where that bull has to come close to ever see his opponent, whether you're hunting with a partner or going solo. So that's definitely a big deal. Or, you kind of get back to that. I wasn't aggressive enough. They come in, they hold up, hang up, and then the bull loses interest and goes away. So couple different things there.
Well, I know us personally, over at the coast, your average shot, there's a lot of units. If you're not shooting outside of the units, that bull I shot 2 years ago was 17 yards. And that was the first glance I even got at the bull was under 30. I could see his tips over the timber and stuff and with the reprod. But, I imagine a lot of it's got to be terrain dependent, but not also you can even use terrain as a rise, right? I've seen, right. I think I've seen you guys, or I forget who it was, but you guys didn't have a lot of cover, so there's a bench, and then the shooter went towards the edge of the bench, and then the caller went towards the back of the bench, and in order for that bull to see where the caller was, he had to rise up high enough for the guy at the end of the bench to shoot him and stuff. So
yeah, absolutely.
I guess if there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, and I think it's just playing that game smart. I think sometimes people get caught up in the moment and all right, let's get him called in right now. Well, man, you're standing in the worst possible place to call in an elk. Just slow down a little bit, pause. Don't call him in yet. Wait, follow along a little, or get closer, or just clam up for a little bit and wait till the bull gets into a little better spot. If you're standing in the middle of a burn and it looks like the moon, that's probably not the best place to just keep blowing on your calls, because eventually he'll be able to stand there 100 yards away and look at you. Unless you do have, some terrain features where he just has to come close to peek over a ledge or something, and then you can let him have it.
Well, I imagine you get tons of questions and stuff. What are some of the most common questions that you're getting right now, and what are some of the most common errors that you're seeing?
Yeah, those two on the setups for sure are the most common. Also, calling, just the actual use of the calls.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a crazy statistic from all the folks I talked to at trade shows, and all the guys I talked to at the elk shaped camps we've got. It seems like pretty consistent numbers. About 2 out of 10 people, their mouth is not shaped to where they can use an elk call effectively. A lot of times they think, oh man, this and that, and the other thing, and you start looking at how their mouth is constructed, and they don't even have a mouth that's made to accept an elk call. Maybe their palate's too narrow. Maybe their palate's very deep, and they just cannot get the right angles or the right call placement to make a noise. Had a couple guys that couldn't even make a darn noise at all. And how frustrating, it was for them. So just because, your buddy likes a Maverick doesn't mean it's going to work for you, So you have to experiment with that a little bit, and try some different options, some external whatever. Let's see. I hear a lot of guys that kind of get wrapped up in, they kind of lose their crap a little bit when bulls come in, a little bull fever, buck fever. And how do you control that? They ask. And man, it's tough, because I find like sometimes it's not the same with every situation. One bull I'll be calm as a cucumber, and the next one I'll be kind of rattled a little bit. But going back to slowing things down, not anticipating things too much, just letting them unfold, taking taking command of the situation and trying to play your scenario on the bull rather than him playing his. And then just focus on, your shot execution, thinking about success. Okay, pick a spot, going through your pre-shot checklist, pick a spot, focus on the spot. Don't look at his horns. Everybody has their own little pre-shot thing, but remembering to do that every single time. And I think that goes back to practice. How do you practice at home versus how are you hunting? One of the camps we were at, I was watching the guys, they got to bring their bows, and we let them shoot under duress. And a lot of them struggle with just getting their arrow from their quiver onto their string and then drawn back in a fluid motion. Some guys will kind of do these little weird things. It's like, whoa, what, that they kind of make a couple little fumbles, or they don't do it exactly the same every time. So, we talk about building consistency in your shot routine. Every time when you're practicing the backyard, whenever you're practicing under duress, make sure you're doing those same things over and over again. And that way, when a bull comes in and you're like, holy crap, you just go on autopilot as far as grabbing the arrow, knocking it, get it there, pulling it back. Now focus, and do your pre-shot checklist or whatever you want to call it.
Well, I feel like a lot of that is also muscle memory and like Joel Turner making good connections in your brain, closed loop versus open loop and stuff like that, and just making sure that you're controlling the shot. But that comes with shooting your bow. That comes with practicing. And I feel like a lot of these guys are just wanting the easy tips for success, or the easy, quick and easy. And it's for me, starting yesterday, I took a little while. I've been bow fishing a little bit, so I can't say I haven't shot my bow, but I'll pretty much shoot every day up until season, starting right now. And, we're talking 60, 80, 100, on a long night, 200 arrows. And by that time, Man, when you find a way to screw shit up enough times like I have, you stop getting excited until you actually find it. So,
Right.
like I get excited after the shot. I get excited before, but I just used to lose my crap when something would come in and it was big or anything like that. And it's just when you finally, like, okay, it doesn't matter how big it is if you can't make the shot. It doesn't matter how big it is if you can't put your freaking arrow on the string. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't know. I just tell myself that all the time, and more animals have been hitting the dirt. But I just feel like hard work and dedication to shooting and working your craft, but also building good habits along the way, using like what you were talking about, Joel's shot IQ and stuff. Habits come from doing something over and over and over again. And so, man, I mean, how often are you shooting your bow and stuff?
Yeah, I shoot it twice a day if I can.
Yeah.
Once a day for sure. And sometimes I don't have the time to shoot 100 arrows. But what I do is I focus on quality practice, and I'm more focused on shot execution, form. I'm really trying to train myself to do it right, do it the same way every time, and I'm not worrying about too much accuracy. These are like pretty close shots, 20, 25 yards shots, to where I'm just working on executing the shot over and over again, to where, you get used to making the right decisions before you pull the trigger. And I think this, I'm going to kind of go deep in the weeds with this, but I think today's hunter, and today's men, they don't have the same opportunities maybe some of us older guys had growing up. Let's say living in the country living. Boys growing up chasing squirrels, hunting squirrels, or going grouse hunting with Pappy or whatever. Those develop killer instincts. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It means you know what to do at the right time. Squirrel hunting, especially, because you got to start having squirrels running this way and running that way, and you're shooting them. It can be a pretty high intense situation. Of course, it's nothing like a bull elk, but you learn to control your shots, right? You know what kind of moves to make at the right times. And I think, like myself, I was very lucky to grow up in an atmosphere where I was able to shoot the crap out of all sorts of stuff when I was a kid, to where that kind of bleeds over into my adult hunting life.
Well, I feel like you're one of the more notorious and well-known elk killers out there, and I'd just be curious to hear what your preseason prep sounds like. So you shoot every day. Is there certain areas in your physique or physical fitness that you feel that you need to work on every year, or things that you would point people to start working on if they're not working on anything currently?
Yeah, I think if they're not working on anything currently, the easiest thing to get started on this is walking. You have to walk to hunt elk. I mean, unless you're good old Doug Flutie and going to try to shoot them from the front seat of your 78 Chevy Suburban, you're going to have to hunt. You're going to have to hike. You're going to have to walk. So walking, it starts somewhere. Walk. If that means, let's say, whenever I used to work at Night Force, every day we get a coffee break in the morning, one in the afternoon, at lunchtime. So leading up to hunting season, sometimes life gets busy and you just can't get in those hikes or the workouts you want after work or before work. Just stuff goes wrong. But guess what? At work, when I got my coffee break, I was beating feet. So it was a quarter mile out to the stop sign where you hit the highway, and a quarter mile back. So there's a half a mile. And I'd walk as fast as I could humanly possibly walk. Lunchtime, same thing. Now it's hot out. It's 100 degrees. Well, I'm out there sweating, walking it fast as I can. And then that last one. So at the end of the day, I've walked a mile and a half, the fastest pace I could possibly walk. Walking's pretty doable. Now, if a guy wants to take it up a notch and get sweaty at work and really sweaty and run, hey, you can do that too. Mm-hmm. But, maybe some people are not quite there yet in their fitness of running, but you got to start somewhere. So walking, you should, and by the time elk season comes around, you should be able to make a 5 mile hike in an evening after work or something, and complete it with pretty good ease, that you're not dying, and with a pack on. Start out without a pack, walk a mile without a pack. As time goes on, as you get stronger, throw more weight in that thing to where by the time September gets there, you can have 50 pounds on your back, walk for 5 miles and not be dying. If you can do that, you're gonna do well. Of course, you need to have some upper body strength. They always say the curls are for the girls. You don't need to do a bunch of curls and stuff, but lifting heavy things, I do a lot of dumbbell lifts to where I'm working on my shoulders, good old push-ups and stuff like that. Just to keep your upper body strong, quarters of an elk, they're pretty heavy. For an average Rocky 5-point in Idaho, you're looking at about a 65-pound chunk of meat in bone. That's socketed. That's a quarter. Monster bull, 85 pounds. So you not only have to wrestle that thing and cut it off the elk and put it in a bag, you have to put it, hang it in a tree, and then you have to carry it out. And that's probably one of the hardest things that even the guys are really in good shape. They sweat a lot and have some pretty sore, achy muscles at the end of the day too. So, just lifting heavy things and hiking, that's a great way to go. If you want to go next level, that CrossFit style, or get a home gym to where you're doing some of those CrossFit type workouts. Those things will kick your ass, and they're pretty simple, really. Dan does a lot of these like simple home gym workouts. They're similar to CrossFit, and at these elk shape camps shows guys how to work out. And it doesn't take much, a heavy bag of sand, a box, and just lots of reps of just getting sweaty and body movement. It can go so far. So.
Well, you bring up a lot of good points there, and I know for me personally, I've been working my shoulders out too because both mine are shot. They're pretty bad, and so I draw my bow like not properly or anything. And for talking about shoulder issues, did you ever use an AccuBow to bring your shoulder back up, or what did you do to bring your shoulder back up after you injured it?
I just went through let's see, when did I start physical therapy? I went through about 3 months of physical therapy, and it went from the lifting of the smallest weight to I'm like, this is ridiculous. You feel like a fool. I can't even lift a 1 pound weight, to where, you graduate and further on, you start lifting heavier weights, but no, I did not use an AccuBow. I don't know, something about girls in tight tops pulling that thing back and getting their picture taken on Instagram. It just kind of turned me off.
Yeah.
I don't want to get caught with one of those things, but I think it probably could have been a good tool. But I did all the recommended exercises, which, I told my physical therapist that, I really wanted to be able to draw my bow, and he's like, oh, that'll be no problem. And we kind of tailored the workouts to that. But we did a lot of rubber band workouts to get there. And then once those repaired muscle got more strength in it, then we started working on it, doing some machine workouts at the gym there with it. So
awesome.
And I've been moving, so I've been lifting lots of heavy boxes, but it's not the right kind of lift. So my shoulders kind of been bugging me a little bit because I kind of got out of that shoulder workout routine that I was doing. So I got to get back in the gym. And so I'm going to go to the gym and do some dedicated shoulder workouts with the machines and stuff to just get that thing beefed back up and strong. Cause I'm still pretty weak up overhead and lost a lot of upper body strength in general, but I'll get it back.
Yeah, it's a bummer, but at the same time, I mean, you get to build it back in a way that maybe it wasn't built even before, maybe to make it even stronger than it was before. I mean, I've been one of those guys that's on again, off again with fitness, and so it sucks. It's easier to stay fit than it is to get fit, and
right.
But also, I have to ask Dan this, but I think it's also easier once you built that muscle to gain it back. Maybe I'm full of shit there, but I feel like I notice the gain's easier once you did all the work and then maybe you lose a lot of it. I feel like it comes back easier. Have you ever experienced that at all?
Yeah, I've experienced that too, and with like hiking and stuff too. It seems like once you've kind of gone to hell and back on hunts, it seems like you can do it again. And I don't know if it's just mind over matter, pushing yourself that extra bit. It's like, well, I've done this before,
Yeah.
But I think there is something to that, getting strong again. It's like, well, my muscles were this, but then again, as a guy gets older, I think it's a little harder too to build that. So I'm 46, and I can definitely tell a big difference between 36 and 46. Man, getting old sucks. Man.
I can tell the difference between 21 and 30, man.
Oh yeah.
But and I do have one of those AccuBows, and yes, I do wear a wig and spandex when I shoot it. But
perfect.
But I gave it to my buddy who he has this injury from a car wreck, and I think it's good for that. And I also used it to learn how to shoot a hinge without having any consequences of failure. So, for me, I must have shot that 300 times before I actually shot my hinge on an actual live bow. And that's, I feel like that sped up the learning curve, but I agree there. I don't know, man. I don't use it outside of that. I haven't shot that thing in probably 2 years, but hopefully my buddy gets some use out of it.
I think some of their marketing was a little questionable on that. I think if it would have been, less of the one thing and more of what you talked about, it probably would have went over a lot better. I mean, it would be a lot more accepted by a lot of us sportsmen. But
I think so. I think there's other tools to learn how to shoot a hinge or a back tension or any release just to test one out. If I had a shop, it'd be something I would use for guys to test out releases or something. Use this or something, but. The way that they're marketing it, man, absolutely. I don't know. I'm with you on that one. Maybe they're trying to sell spandex. I don't know.
Yeah.
But well, I would love to hear about anything that you're excited about before we wrap this thing up. Anything that you wanted to get out there in the podcast world.
Hey, here's something that I haven't really told anybody besides John and Phelps and my family is. I'm starting a podcast.
You are starting a podcast?
Yes, it's going to be called The Bugler. The Bugler Broadcast. And I had to think about that for a second. The Bugler Broadcast, yep.
Broadcast.
Yeah. It's the Broadcast podcast, okay?
There you go. That's very original.
Yeah.
When are you going to start this thing up?
So, man, soon. So I'm going to do things a little different. This is going to be more of a Q&A. Mm-hmm. And I want people to get their questions to me because, I get 5 million questions a day on social, right? From all these different ideas. Yeah. I did this wrong, did this right, I blew my out call. Does that sound good? And I kind of like to get those all funneled into one spot to where I can answer them for not only the person to ask it, but I think there's a ton of people that need to hear this stuff too. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a dedicated phone line to where people can call in, leave their message, a very detailed message. I'm going to play their detailed message on the podcast, and I'm going to dive in and answer it. So I think that's going to be pretty cool, pretty fun.
You know what you need to do is have a fireplace, do it at night, have a robe on, a stiff drink, and then
smoking jacket,
smoking jacket, and then just film yourself and do the elk the Bugler broadcast. Just that'd be funny. You should do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna do a video. It's gonna be videoed as well for YouTube. So because I want this to be on every platform. So yeah, maybe I'll do that.
Bear rug.
Like Hugh Hefner or
the
most interesting man. World's most interesting man.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. You could play it off in either one of those, and then or just if you had like a room like Cameron Haynes, just walk around the room answering questions and just don't even acknowledge any of your mounts, like it's no big deal. But well, hey, I appreciate you for coming on, man, and this is actually a bit of a shorter podcast, but I just wanted to take some of your time to hear about this elk collective before the word really got out about it. I saw that you and Dan did one, and I was like, shit, I need to get one of those too, because that was this is gonna be something I think people really gravitate towards, and I think it's gonna be definitely useful.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about it. I think Sorry, my phone just went off. I think we're super excited about this. Once people start diving in on this, they're like, holy cow, there's a lot of information here, a lot of good information. And I just can't wait for everybody to check it out. So
when is it officially uploading, and when, and what are the costs associated?
So it officially access to the website is July 1st. So it's coming right up.
Oh yeah.
So the course is $99, but we're throwing out some discount codes and stuff. If you go on there right now, and we have it a pre-sale, and you can get it for $69.95. So, and there'll probably be some discount codes out there floating around once we launch this thing too. Because we're gonna have it on auto renew. So if you sign up and you do auto renew, you'll get grandfathered in at the lower price point. So
awesome.
At least till your card expires, right? So use a card that's not going to expire for a couple years.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate it, man, and I think you guys are you're gonna have some great content for people that want to go out and learn. And you got your dog bothering you?
Yeah.
Usually it's my three that want to make an appearance onto the podcast.
I don't know if he thinks it's dinner time or if he thinks it's time to go potty, one or the other. So,
well, if you want, Dirk, give him a place to find you. And then, do you have any idea of when you're going to upload the podcast? Anytime soon? Month, 2 months?
My podcast is going to be coming out in the next few weeks.
Oh, that soon. Soon. Okay.
Yeah. And let's see. Just you can find me on social on the Bugler, one word, on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And then also check us out. It's called theelkcollective.com. Go check that out. There's a landing page. You can kind of see a little bit more about it. And got some graphics there. Yeah. Actually, you can sign up with your email to stay informed of what's going on. And you can put in there, what are you interested in learning about? Do you want to know about calls? Do you want to know about guns? What is it about elk hunting that you want to know more about? So, we're going to try to listen to people's feedback and what they really want to learn, and try to give that back. So,
all right. Well, one question to finish off the podcast. Being an insider on the Phelps game calls, which call is outperforming sales-wise, the Maverick or the Pink?
Me and Jason don't really, make that public information because, he's kind of a sore loser, and he doesn't want anybody to really know the truth, and he gets to be kind of a sore loser about it. So I really wouldn't want to tell you that the Maverick is crushing it, but
we'll just assume.
We'll just leave it. We'll just assume. And we'll just leave it at that.
I've heard Charlie's is coming in a strong, he's slingshotting in there. So
he's like a close 6th place or so.
Well, nowadays he'd still get a trophy. So
he does. Yeah, he did. Yeah. Box of Lucky Charms.
Yeah. You need to get John a call and then have him and Charlie compete. That's what you need.
I know, right?
But
man, when those guys hunt together, they they fight like a couple of schoolgirls, but man, they're funny.
That's hilarious.
Man, they get so mad at each other, but they love each other. I know they do.
All right, man. Well, I'm looking forward to watching your shenanigans this year, and hopefully, the WrestleMania Savage outfit comes back, and you guys can do some fun stuff like that again, because I enjoyed that. That was really funny to watch.
Yeah, that was super fun. And we had a lot of laughs over that.
All right, man. Well, hey, I appreciate it, and we'll go ahead and wrap this thing up.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, you too, Dirk. Thank you. All right, guys, that's this episode of the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't yet and you want to help out the podcast, go to iTunes, leave a review with a comment. That way I can see who left it. If you have constructive criticism or positive feedback or negative feedback, I need to see that. I want to make sure that we're producing content that you guys want to listen to, or, if you have some sort of suggestions, I'm open. I'm totally open to constructive criticism or whatever you guys want. Leave me a review on there. 5 stars is the best review. 1 star is the worst. I try to avoid those, but whatever you think we feel I earned, happy to get your feedback on there. If you want to help out the podcast in a different way, there's two other ways. It's www.patreon.com/onpointpodcast. There's a link in the description. And if you want to give financially to the podcast, $1, $5, whatever, your budget or whatever you feel is necessary to help the podcast grow and come out with more content, totally fine. Would love to have you. If you can't do that and you just want to do something different, www.onpointpodcast.com. Pop-up will show up where you can give me your email, and eventually that will turn into something that you can use for discount codes, keep up with the content, and find out exactly what I'm up to and things that are coming around the corner for content. So outside of that, guys, appreciate you for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.